Hey guys, sorry it took me so long. I got just really slammed at work and also the college course I'm taking over this summer. It's really been crazy. So I finally did finish my script for this, but now I've also decided that I may do the uploads every other week for this series, the World War II series, and the weeks I'm not doing it, I'm going to do a profile of somebody. The next person I'm going to do a profile on is Alexander Hamilton because of the recent play that's become very popular, Hamilton, that just won all those Tonys. I really want to see it. But let's get into this. So all my sources will be listed in the description of the video, so if you want to explore them yourself, you can. Now I'm going to break this into several parts. I'm breaking it into parts by time period and by country. So the first one I'm starting off with is World War II, the entrance of it, according to the UK. What leads up to the United Kingdom declaring war on Germany? Who are the big players? And you kind of have to start in Germany. This all starts in Germany, but I first want you to imagine something. Imagine yourself as a Londoner during the Blitzkrieg, and you hear the air sirens, and you rush into a bomb shelter, and overhead you hear the Luftwaffe dropping their bombs on the west end of London, and you see the earth shaking around you, and you come out of the shelter and everything is in smoke. And to your horror, you look to see St. Paul's Cathedral in the middle of London, and you see a bomb on it. And you're concerned, if this is going to explode, this is a symbol of Britain. This has always been the symbol of Britain. What will happen if St. Paul's blows up? Well, to your relief, you see that they're able to remove the bomb. This was actually the fear that took place on October 9th, 1940, but when the smoke cleared, the church was left pretty much undamaged. This was one of the many stories I heard during my time studying in London when I took a history of London class. We walked around. Another great story, though, from this time period is Queen Elizabeth. Apparently, during World War II, Queen Elizabeth and her husband were sitting in the parlor of the palace in the center of London, and they heard planes overhead. And the Queen commented, "Oh, I didn't know our boys were flying." And her husband said, "They're not." So they quickly had to duck under a table. It was actually Luftwaffe who had come in close to the palace and actually fired into the palace. So everybody was affected. And by the way, for those of you who do not know, Queen Elizabeth did actually work during World War II. She worked with the women producing metals and ammunition for the boys fighting over in Europe. Now, let's start off with the major players of World War II. Of course, you have Adolf Hitler, who will rise to power in 1933 with the Enabling Act. By the way, Hitler will rise to power totally legally. He will have the people vote him into power. This is going to be caused by the Reichstag fire, which also happened in 1933, which Hitler will blame the communists for. This wasn't a communist thing. Hitler actually did it, but who's to say? Hitler did fear a few people, including Ernest Röhm, who was the leader of the SS, or the Stormtroopers. Now, Ernest Röhm was an openly gay man, and most of his brown shirts were also gay. So it made it very politically easy to get rid of them by claiming the reason why they were being executed was for being gay. And Ernest Röhm will be killed by Hitler July 1st, 1934. And when Goebbels announces this to the world press, he does it in English, which is very strange for Goebbels. And this story is recounted during BBC's production of The World at War. If you've never seen it, it's a really good series. Came out in 1973. And I couldn't catch the reporter's name. It's in the first disc, though. So Hitler will become the head of Germany. The Nazis will rise to power. And the Nazis saw the United Kingdom as an Aryan nation. They thought they'd be a good ally. But it's not entirely true. You see, the idea of Aryan are these pure race that are Nordic, but somehow come from the Himalayas, and there's a lot of symbolism there. There is a group of people in India known as Aryan, but they're not what you think is Aryan. It's a whole different group of people with a whole different religious system. Maybe sometime I will go over that. Comment below if you'd like me to actually go over that. So Hitler will think that the United Kingdom will side with them, and France and Russia and the Slavic nations are all their enemies. So Hitler thinks, you know what, since I have power and Neville Chamberlain's the prime minister of the time, I'm going to march into the Rhineland. And he does. He actually has troops ride bikes into the Rhineland, which is the funniest thing to watch the video. To see troops, Nazi troops, riding into the Rhineland on bikes makes me laugh so hard because I'm just waiting for one to hit the bell and just go ching 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 ching. Yeah, Nazis on bikes. Woot. So Hitler will march into the Rhineland and nobody does anything. Now, this is right before Chamberlain comes in, and it's actually Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin. He doesn't do anything because him and Neville Chamberlain, the next Prime Minister, buy into this theory called appeasement. Now, appeasement works like this. You give a world dictator what he wants, and you hope he doesn't want something else. But as one of their adversaries will point out, a very famous man by the name of Winston Churchill, if you give a mouse a cookie, he will want milk. If you give a mouse milk, he will want more cookies. And then he'll want more and more and more. So if you give Hitler a country, or if you give Hitler territory, he'll want more and more and more until he takes over the world. This is a theory of appeasement. So they don't do anything. And then Hitler targets Austria and Czechoslovakia, claiming that Austria voted to become a part of the Nazis. And by the way, the Austrian Nazi Party was much more extreme than the German Nazi Party. And in Czechoslovakia, he claims that there's a minority German uprising, which Chamberlain will actually give into. Now, it wasn't until 1936 do you start to see somebody come in, and he's not very happy. This man had a failed campaign, a very famous failed campaign, and was broken because of it. The Tripolitan campaign during World War I. He was the vice admiral, and his name is Winston Churchill. By the way, did you know Churchill? He's half British, half American. His mother is actually a wealthy heiress from America. Now, Churchill is an outcast, but he's slowly coming back into the political fold because of his failure during the Tripolitan campaign, where he tries to get the British troops to go up the Straits by Turkey to try to meet up with the Russians, and it doesn't quite work. It ends up leading to the deaths of thousands. But this forced Churchill to leave his position, and he ended up joining the troops in the trenches. Very fun fact, Churchill is actually dyslexic. He was kicked out of several schools around England because of his reading disability, and it never really affected him. He always used to joke about it. Now, when Hitler invades the Rhineland, Churchill stands up. He campaigns against Hitler. He says to Chamberlain, you can't just give in. You have to fight him. You have to show some backbone. Now, some of the information I do have comes from the Churchill Museum, which will be linked below. And Churchill wrote his own memoir books about the Second World War called The Gathering Storm, which are absolutely riveting to read. Churchill was actually a historian as well. But you have to understand this man. This is a man who would get into fights with people and have these really witty sayings. One of my favorite is he gets in a fight with Lady Ashley. And Lady Ashley says to him, if I was your wife, I'd put poison in your tea. And he looks directly at Lady Ashley and goes, if you were my wife, I'd gladly drink it. And there's another story about Churchill during the war where a woman finds him in a bar and she says, Prime Minister Churchill, you're drunk. And she was angry at him, and he looks to her and goes, Madame, I may be drunk, but in the morning I will be sober, but you shall still be ugly. So this is a type of man you're dealing with. And he makes a major speech right after the Rhineland's taken called The Last Few Days, where he clearly refers to the Rhineland, saying that if we ignore Hitler, there will be a world war. How right he was. He says, and I quote, let us never accept the theory of invincibility war. Neither let us blind our eyes to the remote, remorseless march of these events. This is why I don't quote very much. But he's pretty much saying there, don't turn away, don't say a war is inevitable, don't say we can hide it, we can just appease it. and it'll go away. Now, Churchill will wage a campaign against appeasement, and he will warn against these acts, but Churchill will be ignored, and he will be voted against. Just like Woodrow Wilson, who was the American president during the end of World War I, his ideas are correct, but he doesn't go about it all the right way. Winston Churchill is very bombastic, he's very pushy, he's very in your face, and the British people don't want another world war. They just got out of the first in 1919. So Churchill will be rejected by the Prime Minister to go into the Prime Minister's cabinets March 12th, 1936, but instead of being the normal Churchill, he kind of says, oh, this is so great, we'll all work together, we'll make this work, and it's even quoted by some of the journals saying, oh, thank God we've been saved from Churchill, and that Churchill would cause another world war, but Churchill realized you needed a united government to prevent the Second World War. Now, Churchill will warn all the way up through the 1930s about fighting Hitler. And it comes to a head when Hitler invades Poland in 1939. I'm going to stop there. So this is the first part. We just got through Churchill and a little bit of England. I'll go back and touch on this more the next video. So the next one, remember guys, we're profiling Alexander Hamilton, one of our favorite founding fathers. Have a wonderful day, and please comment and like and share this video. Bye guys!